So we'll start with approval of the February minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review them? Are there any edits that need to be made? Or a motion to approve? All right, Jacob for motion. Second, David. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions or noes? No.
I didn't see. No abstentions?
No abstentions. No noes. Okay, we have, I'll take the items out of order a little bit just to catch you up to members. We have a couple of new members here with us tonight. I will allow them or ask them to introduce themselves very briefly and share what they would like. We still have, so as we've gone through the last year, a little over a year now, the group is has reduced in size to about 16, I think, is what we have actively. And so I went back to the original applications that we had when we recruited for the panel the first time. There were about, as you might remember, and for those of you that don't know, when we did the initial recruitment, we had a separate committee outside of the police department led by Christian Clegg, the city manager, and a couple of others that went through and reviewed the applications and made recommendations to the police department about who should be on the panel in that initial wave. And so that panel was put together, we've begun the work, and we still retain all of the previous applications. There were about 14 or 15 different applications that were remaining that I reviewed over the last couple of weeks. There were a couple of community members that made up of that, but there were a lot. There were some law enforcement, there were some community-based organizations, but nothing that appeared to me readily or obvious that was missing from our group. I've reached out to, we actually do have some from the stipulated judgment that are not actively participating in the panel. And so I've reached out to the NAACP and waiting for them to make a recommendation for their representation on the panel. We've done the same for the Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity here locally. We've asked them for a rep as well. We're pending for that, as well as the CRLA. Their member is no longer participating in the panel, so we've asked them if they want to have another member. Those are the three remaining from groups that are named within the stipulated judgment. And so then we went out, again, looking at the applications. David, Keith, and Lupe are here with us tonight, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but representing the school district and some retirees with some experience in probation, but also Keith being an advisory member of the Friendship House as well. So we still have Edward Robinson, who is also a new member. He's representing the Black Chamber of Commerce. He's not here with us tonight. And Nick Hill, who previously was on the panel representing the chamber, will remain with us as well. And so as soon as we get some feedback on these other groups that are yet to be named or name a representative, we'll continue to move forward. We don't have, as you might remember, Laura Cerna was with us. She was one of the impacted families that was with us. We currently do not have a representative of those families, and so if you have recommendations of someone who we should reach out to, please let me know. Any questions about the process or what's remaining before the members can? I'll let them briefly introduce themselves. Okay. Keith, thank you again for being here and your participation in the panel, and just briefly introduce yourself and whatever you'd like to say.
Thank you, Chief. Keith Edwards. I'm a product of local schools in Bakersfield. I fairly recently retired from oil and gas, 40 years, and have an opportunity to give back to the community. So I'm active in several organizations here, community-based, and looking to give back into the community and welcome the opportunity to work with you all in this council.
Thank you for being here. David?
David West. I'm a native of Bakersfield. My 7 brothers and sisters grew up here with my parents, so I work for a Bakersfield City School District in the purchasing department, and I'm glad to be part of the team.
All right, thank you.
I'm Lupe Perez. Nice to meet you all. I'm a retired
this a little bit out of order again. Let's talk a little bit about S3 in the onboarding process and the thing we've been working with them. And so, again, as you might remember, taking us back a little bit through the first couple of months of last year, we heard from you often and from the monitor team about and feedback about as we were getting going how disorganized it was, how it felt like we were not making progress, things were moving very slow, it felt very, very dysfunctional, we were having difficulties communicating with each other or and through the documents in particular. Tried to use Google Docs for a bit, and then that didn't really work well. It's difficult to have access from, and so we began thinking about how, let's try to work through the process administratively. Let's see if we can develop the tools, we can develop the processes, we can develop the techniques and templates, instruments, whatever that might be to help improve our communication. How are we tracking how we communicate with each other? Is it transparent? Is it clear of what is being communicated? The feedback or the recommendations and input from community members, is that very clear in the documents? And there really wasn't a lot of that. So we kind of felt like just kind of stumbled, at least that's my perspective. Felt like we just kind of stumbled and worked through things for a bit, but things were not moving the way that we want them to be, I think, in the way that they can. And so we began thinking about a facilitator, not somebody that would come in and control the meetings or run the meetings. They still very much and committed and want this to be a police department and a community collaborative effort. But there was some technical expertise that we did not have at the police department. We did not have the staff or the resources for. There was administrative support that we were also really needing as well. And so as we began thinking about, okay, where do we go for this kind of resource? A project manager, that kind of idea began to kind of marinate and grow. And so we issued an RFP for some proposals. We ended up getting one from S3 after the team reviewed and my review as well, and really felt like this was the right fit. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've really been working with S3, trying to solve that, trying to put together a process and infrastructure that can help us communicate, that can help us be transparent in how we communicate, that we can track what we are talking about, to ensure that all of our panel members' input is appropriately recorded, that everybody's had an opportunity demonstrably, even in the instruments that we use, that everybody's had a chance to weigh in and provide input and that sort of thing. And so that's what I've asked S3 to kind of put together for us, and to help be that facilitator, that technical, that administrative expertise that we really didn't have, to help us communicate much more effectively, to keep us on task, to keep us organized, to have a transparent process where your communication to us, ours to you, is very clear, very objective, and all of these kinds of things are clearly recorded and can be tracked as well. And so that's what we've been working with them on. Rosa and Robert are going to be working directly with us and look at, I should apologize to you because you just got an invite probably today. I was told that you didn't get one last week, and so hopefully we can meet. Let me know if you can. But, okay. But Robert and Rosa, who you've selected to be your reps, are going to sit down with us. And again, we're really going to dive into some of these things. There's three real templates and three instruments that we're working on. Is what is the content, what is the format, what is the template, how we make our presentations to you in terms of policy. What is that specific content? What are the supporting documents? We've really been working with them to design what a package looks like that comes to you, in whole, that you get time to review. Then there's presentations that follow. There's dialogue and discussions between the police department and the panel on what we are doing. Then your feedback, your recommendations coming back to the police department. They're working to build templates. We'll be heavily involved in the administrative part of that, but getting your recommendations back to us, consolidating them in whatever way that you present them. We can talk about that as we go forward. But they will consolidate all of your recommendations. Each one of you will get a chance to review and ensure that what is being presented to the police department is your recommendations, either individually or collectively as a panel. So they're going to be heavily involved in the development of what that looks like in those templates, those instruments that we use. And then we're also working on a police department response back to you and what that looks like in a very clear, coordinated, orderly way as well. So that's what we've been working with S3 in particular on. And so, again, Robert and Rosa, as soon as we can meet, are going to begin to express your voice on what those templates look like in a real practical way. Again, not making it bureaucratic, not wasting time, but making sure that we make the best use of our time. And we're staying organized, we're staying transparent, that everybody's voice is represented in the documents, and that when we respond back to you, that it's very clear of what we are responding to, and then so all of that can be looked back on and be tracked very clearly and objectively. So that's what we've been working on, in particular with S3. Are there any questions about that? Still a work in progress, and again, Robin and Rose are going to see here very quickly, hopefully, what we've been working on, and then we will be bringing all of it to you. And you will all have a voice and all have an opportunity to have input on what you think about these instruments that we're going to be using and the processes that we'll be using to communicate with each other. Yes?
So you will still use Conveo as part of it?
Yes. I still see Conveo. Let me get some water, I'm sorry. I still see Conveo being a part of it. Do you like that or don't like that?
It depends if we have other things, we have got real dialogue, then I don't know, what are other things?
Yeah, by no means is this going to be an electronic communication and exchange and relationship. It's not. But what's that? Okay, thank you. No, this is where the work is going to be done. Here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because I put 3 or 4 things in.
Yeah.
Just have to remember to log in. First I wrote, put the name, have Kathy instead of Kathy, it was like Kathy, and that's what.
Yeah.
It seems that you've got it, sort of got it.
Agreed. Yes.
Will you be able to bring the new advisory team members up to speed to where we're at in terms of what we've gone over, just so it doesn't take time out during these sessions?
Yeah, we will sit down and schedule some appointments with the new members and bring them up to speed. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about recommendations. I know at the last meeting, it was believed and talked about in the plans that you, by this meeting in March, that the use of force recommendations, the panel's use of force recommendations on our policies would be communicated back to us in some form. And so I kind of want to, I know that that's not necessarily going to happen in this way. So let's talk about where we are and what that process is like and where you are as a panel.
If I could just share back, a few of us met twice during that process of discussing use of force. And the first time was before the presentation, before Peter's presentation. And so I think after Peter's presentation and being able to share those resources, kind of simpler language around the law was really helpful. It was a smaller group that, that convened the second time. And I mean, others can definitely chime in, but what I took from that group was that the conversation around just the policy, going actually either paragraph or section by section, was helpful to really convey, does it really represent, the intent of the law. And so I thought it was helpful. I was listening to Dave and listening to Tabitha, and just from different perspectives. So I think when we were engaging in that, we found it helpful. But even our 2-hour meeting, we got through 2 sections. So and understanding that people's schedule was really tight, it's been really difficult to organize again as a work group. And so I think my colleague Stephanie or somebody else too communicated that maybe it would be helpful to really allow that us as a work group or in this larger space to have those interactions and those conversations. I mean, again, definitely throwing it back to the group that participated in one of those work group sections, and what was the thought around it. Because I'm hoping that we can bring that back here, because there was some questions of like, what is the true meaning of this, or it's not clearly defined, or still this sentence is still vague. And so I guess just sharing back that it was helpful conversation here.
Who is part of the working group, or who's been participating?
Tabitha,
Those are
Jackie.
two different questions.
He's been working a lot, but he hasn't really.
It is, you know, it is a little, like she's saying, it's hard for all of us to coordinate our schedules, to find a time when we meet well for everyone. And so I think, having a small, having this opportunity maybe to have a discussion outside of, about this, outside of a presentation might be valuable.
How about the other members of the committee, of the panel? Have you had a chance, if you're not able to work in the working group, have you had an opportunity to review the policy? Have you made your comments or recommendations on Conveo? Where are you at, those that haven't been able to participate with the other group?
My historic email kind of disappeared. So last week I updated my email system, so I'm just now getting information back that I should be getting, because my previous email I'm just locked out of. So all those correspondence that was there, I don't have access to anymore.
Okay. Okay. Robert?
Yeah, over the last month or so, I've taken the proposed policy and compared it to the stipulated judgment. And through my lens, from what I see, I'm fairly happy with the fact that, in my mind, almost everything is there. And I had a few questions, and I talked to Captain Croker about it, and he clarified some things. So I was pretty happy with it, but I'm looking at it from a layman's point of view, not necessarily some other points of view. But I felt like most of everything that was required in the stipulated judgment is contained in the proposed policy.
What are the barriers, or where are the, I don't know if that's the right term. Is it just a matter of it being such a lengthy, complex issue? Is that, I'm trying to figure out how I can help and what resources you need from us to help move that along, because, you know, we've talked a little bit about speed and pace and all of that, and it's not for the sake of just ramming things through. And I hope you understand that that's not what I mean when I talk about this, but we want these improvements to be implemented as soon as we possibly can. And that requires a process of getting the policy through the panel, getting it to DOJ, getting it approved. These are important things that we're working on and that we're waiting on, that we need to get these processes and things, improvements implemented. And so we've already made a lot of them because they're the right thing to do, but still, in a technical sense, we need to get these things done. And so I know you likely have a vested interest in making sure that we do the things that we are able to do that. So I want to make sure that we're giving you the support also that you need. So is the, again, I don't know if barrier is the right word. What is the thing that's not allowing you to move forward as perhaps as quickly as you want? Is it just a matter that you all have a life, apparently, and jobs, and that gets in the way of this, which I understand, but really, how can we support that?
With all due respect, we appreciate all the work you've done, and you've done a great job. I think we've had a couple of presentations, and we've had a lot of time to take in information, and now I think the time is for us to talk about what we've heard, what we've seen, and now how it applies to the draft in a space like this, where we have a little bit more time where we can talk about it. Because again, we try to do the work group and we really are dedicated to that, but again, it's just really hard. And I think if we had an opportunity for an hour to like talk, you know, about this and what we got from all the presentations that we received on these courses, would allow us the opportunity to kind of explore and talk about it and come up with an idea. Is that correct?
Good.
And for me, I don't know if this would work, but bringing it up got your response, but then we never had a discussion. We have we have a 2-minute discussion, right? Not like a long, lengthy one where we can go back and forth and say, what about this, or how, and you say, a real dialogue, I think that's what we're looking for, but to make it be better, and because it is my idea, I don't know how to do, to like do the first 5 pages or 10 pages, rather than try to do it all at once.
Would it be beneficial for us to maybe meet, just like you said, an hour or so, maybe somewhere else, if we don't have this area to meet in, things like that? If it's just a few people that need to meet just to come up and brainstorm together, things like that. My office is available. I do have a boardroom, things like that. You're more than welcome to use it. We just schedule something and we can sit down and we can really dig into it, if that's available, if that's open for anybody in this group.
I have a question.
It's generous, thank you.
I guess from your guys' standing, how are you receiving? So we enter, because I've seen some of us have gone into Conveyo and enter our comments, but then what is the follow-up? Like, you guys just decide what to accept without dialogue, or the idea is to come back as a larger group and decide and have those conversations? Where those questions or
So
comments were
we
left?
talked about this at the beginning, and if you remember, at one of the very first meetings, we were talking about how we would get a recommendation. And at least in the context of some of the initial meetings, it was like the panel would come up with your set of recommendations, and it was kind of like, this is the CAP's recommendations. We may not all agree on it, but we all agree that this is the CAP's recommendations. When that's done, then we would receive it in mass, or at a point, we would get that single document that has all of these recommendations. And then we would go back and review it. That's kind of what we had in our mind and really started to work toward. It didn't really manifest itself. We were talking about the canine because it came in a lot of different forms, and so we had to kind of piece that all together and address that. We are actually working on a response back to the CAP, a formal response with some dialogue and discussion on the canine policy. It's one of the things that we're working on with S3 as well. So, because the reality is, I don't think there has to be consensus amongst the panel for the policy reviews. What's most important to me is that each one of you review it, weigh in on what your opinion or your recommendations are, and that gets shared with us. That's what's most important. So, I think your recommendations can come as an individual, it can come as a group. It really doesn't matter to us. We just want them so that we can begin the process of assessing and analyzing and going back and reviewing. And so I think if we knew that it was going to be piecemeal at different times, we would try to compile them. Again, that's what S3 is really. There'll be some more. I hate talking ahead and then just say, just hold on, it'll be coming to you. But that's specifically one of the things that we've been working with and talking about, and their recommendation was, there doesn't have to be consensus. This panel can review a policy, each individual member can make their recommendations, voice their input on this. They will compile all of those into documents for us so that we can orderly review them and specifically make sure that we are responding back to each one of them. And so that's one of the instruments that we're working on. And so I think to answer your question is, if that's how we're going to get them in sort of piecemeal, then we would give them to S3 to compile and organize, enumerate them, and so that we would keep track of them, and then we would begin the process of reviewing them, and then we'll have a direct response back to you. So it's changed a little bit about what we thought would be coming from the panel, and so we're kind of open to either one of those things along the spectrum, either collectively a recommendation from the panel, or each one of you individually making recommendations to us. And we talked about the process, ensuring that when we get recommendations from you, if it goes to S3 to compile, to organize, to write, and enumerate them, all of that, it goes back to you, and you affirm that, yes, this is your recommendation, yes, this is my input, and then it comes to us, so that there's very clear, transparent tracking of that.
So one of the tools built into Conveyo is that when you leave a comment, you can mark it as a question or as a suggestion.
Yeah.
And noting the coordination problem outside of this meeting, I agree, it's gonna be difficult, maybe even just imaginary, to come up with a consensus that the entire group agrees on for, this is our voice on the use of force policy.
Correct.
There you go. It would probably be useful as CAP members to go through, and if somebody has left a comment, you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or have a discussion. That would be useful amongst us.
Yep.
But in those instances where we mark it as a question, it's probably premature for EPD to come back with answers to every suggestion, but for every question, if there's a question like, what does this mean? And there's an acronym
Like
here.
during the course of your review, where there's some real-time information coming to you while you're reviewing it.
Right, so maybe if we mark something as a question, whoever's
Yep.
responsible can
Yep.
keep an eye out for that to sort of give us that information if it's a matter of putting it in context or a cross-reference to another policy or something along those lines.
Okay?
That would be helpful, at least.
Okay.
Are you talking about giving it online or giving
Yeah,
it?
just that is a comment to.
We could respond back to in conveyo
Right.
and give an answer.
Give it all.
I don't know if it prompts you with an email saying, respond or something.
Yeah.
It's there.
But I mean, it would be ready.
But that could help your decision-making process.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So we have made some comments in the use of those policies.
Okay.
Has the agency had a chance to review those, or are we still looking at?
I can say I have not. I can't, I'll let the team answer for themselves if they're dipping into it and reviewing them, or I'll let them answer, because I don't have the answer.
Yeah, we have Lieutenant Morris can probably address that.
Yeah, we've done the process, but we're in the very early stages of reviewing for all this. We'll be prepared to be responding.
Tabitha, my own thought on that is it's a little premature, right? I know that some of my comments are in there, but I'm hoping to get feedback from others too.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to.
Right.
So
Well,
before we
and-
send there something.
But I think your point, I'm sorry, I think your point about the question is a good distinction that we could probably note, because that can help your deliberative process. Yes, sorry.
I'm sorry, that's my question. As far as a collaboration process, I didn't know if the agency was also going in there real time as we were working through it, so that, you know, as things came up, that we had discussed it, either questions or comments that we were making, not necessarily be replied on necessarily, but like I said, was it like a working collaboration process, or are we just putting everything in there and it's until we're done and we say, okay, we put everything in this conveyo, now we've passed it to you to digest?
Yeah, in a short answer, yes.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're expecting, because we're not, even though the team may be reviewing it, I think again, to Jacob's point about a question that would help you during the process, I think that's an important distinction we can look out for, and answer a direct question that will help the process, but weighing in on a suggestion or recommendation, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah, could we possibly establish a time frame for everything? When the delivery of the questions, delivery of feedback, just so we can
Yep, we have
keep
that
it
coming.
moving forward.
We have that coming to you, and we're working with S3 to create a cadence where specifically, so I'll speak just, this could change based on your feedback, but for example, you get a policy 30 days ahead before we ever present it to you. So you get a policy 30 days later, you get a policy to review, 30 days later we present it. So you've had an opportunity to review it. Then there's a presentation that can that will take place. You've had an opportunity to already see the policy, so there probably are suggestions that were already there. And then you begin your process. And so really, ideally, you get 30 days to review it. We have a presentation. There's another 30 days. I don't know if this is the exact time frame, but it's either 60 or 90 days. We would get your recommendations and then respond to you the next one. So in the life of a policy, it would be about 4 months. While that's occurring, every month we're trying to introduce something else, but giving you them ahead of time so that You don't have to deal with them, you don't have to make recommendations. There won't even be a presentation for another month in each one. So more clarity will come around that as we work with S3 to nail that down. But yes, we are working on that specifically. Rosa or Kathleen, I don't know which one we have.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think we're talking about it again, and are we completely against just let's start looking at the policy as a group, regardless whether you read it or you haven't? Just because a lot of us already went in and started submitting our comments. So I'd love to have a conversation, like why am I suggesting this and whether you agree or disagree? Can we start that conversation? We have like about an hour left.
Yeah, I'll give you time tonight for sure. I just kind of wanted to bring you up to speed with what we're doing on all these different kinds of things. I wanted a sense of where you were on the use of force policy. How much time do you think it would be before you're able to make recommendations? Perhaps you can't give me that answer tonight because you haven't really spoken to each other. And so we'll give you the rest of the meeting time tonight to be able to do that because, again, we're bringing this other support on board that have been fantastic in terms of their expertise and I'm really optimistic about the processes that they're going to help us create. But again, to be very clear, this is a work between us and you. And so we're not going to outsource that work and create some digital exchange of information. That's not going to happen. Those are important infrastructures and things that we need, but that's not the intent. But it is the intent to get us organized and to move forward because these things are important to our community. They're important to the police department. We need to get them implemented formally, and you guys play a very important part of that. So, yes.
Can I just add, I do appreciate the work group. I know I'm in that, I don't know how I got into y'all email for the work group, but I do appreciate if you guys can come back and summarize, you know, what you guys talked about. So it probably can spark the conversation for us all to dive in. So I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate you keeping me in that group, but I'm not in the group. My capacity is high, but I would love for you guys to bring back some of just a narrative, a summary of what you guys discussed.
We're also open to, if some of you have an opportunity and you've been able to gather information or questions from the rest of the panel, if you have time, we'll be happy to jump on a Zoom. You guys, we can record it, ask the questions, we can record it, and everybody else can review it.
Yeah,
when we have time.
like that.
I mean, we're open to some of these kinds of things that can help facilitate, and we will make staff available as you're reviewing that. We can record a meeting, 3 or 4 or 5 of you are on there, you're asking questions that everybody else is asking. We can record the responses. It is that information while you're deliberating that can help. We're open to all these kinds of things to help you and support you in what you're trying to do.
That was my question, was direct communication, not just
Yeah.
either tonight, like you said, we can talk tonight.
Yeah.
Because we don't all see each other.
I know.
And so, and
I think the reality is we're going to have to do this in a different way. We cannot meet once a month. It just doesn't work. We've known that all along, and it's really just trying to find a way to do that. So I do think it sounds like to me, Rosa, or for everybody else, you guys want to talk as a group and kind of orient yourselves, figure out where everybody else is, and then we can figure out how we can support you and move forward.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Do you want time to meet amongst yourselves? Do you want police department staff to be there? Do you need? We can separate for a while, and you guys can decide what you want to do for the rest of the meeting tonight. Because we certainly want to make it useful.
If we meet like your suggestion for an hour, historically, we don't communicate well. So we do need some type of facilitation in that, even they're just standing by listening and making sure that we're being respectful, we're listening and understanding each other's point of view.
Yeah, I agree. I think we would just have a large group conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, where we're hoping that our new contract can help facilitate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to change the room and bring you, because you're kind of all spread out, we'll rearrange the tables and police department staff will go outside and play in the park or something?
I'm good. I can see everyone from here.
It's up to you.
This is actually,
I think everybody can hear.
I think this is
Okay.
good.
All right, so you have the room.
I know, everything I said has been,
You're protected. You didn't say anything
It'll be
bad.
posted on the BPD website tomorrow.
You didn't say anything bad.
So where are we? What do you need from us?
We need access to Conveo for everyone, so we can start putting stuff in the system.
Yeah.
Okay?
We're doing good. We have a good understanding. And a response from Conveo. And some response from them.
Well, I'm gonna have a separate kind of onboarding for our new members that we're gonna have a meeting and I'll bring you up to speed on where we are, make sure you have everything. Yeah.
Well, Chief, I think one of the things we kind of discussed in amplifying our use of Conveo is, like Jacob said, putting question marks
Yeah.
by things that we have questions for.
Yeah, we will start monitoring it for those questions and giving responses back when we see a question.
Yeah, mainly for the questions,
Yeah,
not
that's-
observations and
No.
suggestions, no.
We'll
but
be
questions.
responsive for the questions. Conveo, anything else that you need from us?
I mean, I think one of the important keys before, like, the final recommendation submitted is taking it back to the community. And I remember, you mentioned, and last year, that there was also a plan to do that. I'm just curious, I don't know if they're doing it together, are we doing something separately? 'Cause-
Well, I certainly would ask you, from my perspective, I would say it this way, that you have a responsibility to make sure that the people that you have influence in your community in particular, share this with them. Ask for their input on what the policies are and the improvements that we're making, get their feedback on it. So that really is your role as a member of the panel, is to go out and make sure that the community is aware of what we're doing. We also have that same responsibility. And so we talked about doing a listening session or something with the community to directly engage, from the police department to directly engage with the community and have the opportunity for questions to be asked and answered in those kinds of things as well. So we're talking about that separately, but I would ask all of you to share with the community and bring the community's voice back and make that part of this process for sure.
Chief, one quick, because we've already done community engagement and we've talked about, we've developed our, the strategic plan for that. How is that being implemented? Can we have an update on what efforts are made by the department to do that? And then also, as we've been doing these discussions, we were talking about maybe doing some type of PSA or some type of, what an interaction with police would look like. What's an appropriate response from somebody being contacted by police? I think we had those conversations. I didn't know
We
if-
did a PSA a few years ago on, I forget what we called it. It wasn't why you stopped me, but.
It was,
Say again?
with Danny Morrison.
Yeah, but it was actual, I forget what we called it, but it was a dialogue of, it wasn't why you stopped me, but it was something similar to that. But you're talking about more educational and
Right.
informative, about a stop or
Yeah,
certain stuff. Is that
so
what
you
you're
are
talking about?
engaged by an officer,
Yeah.
don't be afraid. This
Right.
is what you should expect from an officer. This is how an officer is going to
Are
approach
you guys willing to be in the PSA?
I am.
I would. Huh?
You're not. Some people not. We
No,
have to think about it.
No, that's what I'm saying. is-
Some of us not.
I would like to have a conversation,
We don't talk.
because I think, this approach of like comply, then complain, because I often hear this in the community where like, well, if you would have just listened and gone through the proper channels to complain, I think that's also like, again, if we are, as a department, approaching it with like, we, I don't know, non-aggressively or not always resorting to use of force, like, we shouldn't all fall on this person who's being stopped to like, you have to make sure that somebody's not having a bad day to escalate the situation, So I guess I would love to have a conversation first of like what the.
What the new
how-
policy
Well,
should look like.
That's what I'm talking about, that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Should be a
when
new
being
policy
approached, the
first.
officer should tell you why they stopped
Yeah.
you. There should, it shouldn't be like, it's not, it does not have to be confrontational. An
No,
officer-
that is the way that we can communicate to the community. Some of the changes that we're making, this is what you should expect. These are some of the things that we are changing.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to, is just kind of.
maybe jumping the gun to do the PSA before we talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I was,
Yeah, once we get the policy,
Sorry.
but that's what we would do.
Yes.
I
I would
wasn't
be more
necessarily
than open
talking
to
about
that.
like the policy for use of force. I'm just talking in general,
Yeah.
contact with law enforcement.
Well, we didn't do a PSA as far as use of force or anything, but, myself, Lieutenant Roper, and Andrew Freeborn with the, county fire department.
Yeah.
We did do a PSA to recruit more African Americans
Yep.
so they could be part of the process.
Right.
You know, with the police department and the fire department, you know, and that's getting a better understanding of how police react to different, ethnicities on the street and things like that, because when you weren't in the room, we talked about the difference of police officers stopping African Americans, you know, versus stopping, non-African American citizens, things like that. You know, this is something that's real. You know, it's getting better now, but, you know, historically, systemically, you know, these are some of the things that we had to actually worry about. And I told them that, you know, even I got stopped one time, and both guns were drawn on me, and I didn't even get a ticket. You know, they let me go. You know, so the disparities are, they're not as apparent as they used to be, but those disparities are still there. You know, so, and when they spoke of the de-escalation, I noticed that, you know, de-escalation is on page 5, right? You know, when it should be all the way up on page 1, you know, and that's something that we will
Because you
be-
think that communicates emphasis or
Right,
importance.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's something that
Steps.
we'll be putting in
Okay.
our notes and things
I
like
think
that.
it goes deeper than that. I think I would love us to focus on as a group is really understanding the training component. You can have all you want on policy, but if that teacher, that instructor is teaching a mindset of segregation, of this is how we profile, that's where it starts there. And I think that's the conversation we need to start having, is on that training and the mindset of what's coming out of the camp, boot camp, what's coming out of the police academy. Because those are the ones that are gonna be out on the street. And whatever they learn there, it's out. That's what they're doing on the street.
Yeah, you're right.
De-escalation is
It
not
doesn't matter what I
priority
say.
one.
Yeah, no matter what.
It's true.
It is true, because you're not gonna be in every situation. So,
And like I said, de-escalation is not job one, you know, and it's not if it's buried in the back, you know, instead of brought up to the forefront. That's not concentrating on de-escalation, you know, so.
Okay, great. So convey access to everyone, done. You guys will be receiving an appointment with some, and we'll be sharing some documents and getting you caught up to speed with just everything that's happened over the last year, just so you have a general awareness of things. And you have all of the documents that everybody else has. What else do you need from us?
keep feeding us.
What's it, okay. What's it look like in terms, we talked a little bit about staff engaging with you at some working group meeting, maybe that's yet to be determined if you need us for the next couple of weeks. Do you have an idea of how much more time you need for the use of force policy? Is there any clarity on that yet?
I think once we get access to Conveo, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
What do you
it'll
think?
give
Maybe
us,
by
we'll be
name.
able to gauge where we're at, if everybody's been sitting there.
Because what we got out of this here is realizing we can put a lot of things in Conveo that we agree with, and we'll find out what we don't agree with. And those are the things, or we still have questions about, and then we probably need to meet again by ourselves and with you, and I think it will go much faster.
And we'll, again, we will make staff available to meet with you much more often of those that are willing and able.
Yeah.
And we can record it if we need to, so that it can be viewed by other people when you have time to be able to do that. So the work's important, so we'll make sure that we support any of those kinds of things that we need.
And you were gonna work on a timeline for everything?
Yeah, yeah. That will be part of what we're gonna present to the full cap as we sit down and work with Robert and as we have some ideas of that. But all of you will get input and go, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. But yeah, it's coming to you.
I really think this meeting was probably the most productive meeting that we've had, Chief.
How come?
I know.
Why?
Productive. I didn't want to
Tabitha,
make
we
them
going
feel
backwards.
bad. I know. I'm just saying,
Going backwards.
getting together just because we were able to.
What was different about this?
We could talk amongst each other and.
We had a
have
facilitator.
We had a
And we had a facilitator.
Could disagree and we could still keep going.
And we brought information to the table that we could all share and discuss and,
All it took is a year and a half.
And you guys got me talking for a change.
I think the facilitator made a difference, kept us
Yeah.
on task and, you know, recognized when someone needed to need their, you know,
Yeah.
maybe overlooked, because a lot of us talk a lot, so I thought that was important to make sure everybody. Like, you know, it was true, we can talk,
So
us
was
four
this
can
not
talk,
being
conversations.
Was this not being done in the past?
No,
this is
Keith.
the first time we've done this.
Thanks for volunteering.
Welcome to the team, Keith.
You guys.
The wheels are on here.
That was good.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.